morning, I'm so pleased to be joined by a learning and development specialist. Her name is Vicki Williams. And so naturally, we're talking about the benefits of leadership programs within organizations. Ms. Williams, good morning to you.
Good morning, Pearson.
Good to have you indeed.
Thank you.
Now, as a learning and development specialist, what is it that you do?
Oh, wow. Oh, dear. What do I do?
See, that was the easy question?
Yeah, it was the easy question compared to the one before, right?
Yes.
What do I do? So normally we develop a lot of programs, whether it be for leadership or if the organization says, okay, we have a need because we realize there's a shortcoming for an employee. And I say shortcoming loosely, but we really develop programs to help the employees to excel. Yeah. The benefits really is to the employee, yeah, and also then long term to the organization, yeah. I know sometimes people say, what if I invest in my employee and they leave? But I always then ask you, what if you don't invest in your employee and they stay? Then what do you have? Yeah. I know organizations like to focus on the harder skills, the technical skills, making sure that if you're a secretary, you know how to use Microsoft, Excel, those kind of things. If you're an auditor, you know all of what is required to perform an audit. But the workshops and stuff, the ones that I really focus on at this time, are really to build soft skills for the employee. And I say soft skills, and every time I say I cringe because I don't like soft skills, because when someone hears soft skills, they think, oh, it's nothing major. But when you think of empathy, showing empathy to your employee, having emotional intelligence, being able to handle conflict resolutions, those are soft skills. Those are things that a lot of people, especially leaders who take on leadership roles, whether it be a supervisory role or a manager role, you realize that, okay, they don't have it, yeah? And it's not from lack of trying. Sometimes it's lack of knowledge. How to be able to monitor, how to be able to realize what's happening with an employee. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I facilitated some new hires that we had join our company. And I usually test the pulse of the people, you know, tell me how you're feeling today as you start. Some people put the happy emoji, some people talk about being overwhelmed, etc. And one young lady, she put the crying emoji. So I called her out and I said, hey, what's going on here? She said, it's kind of personal, I don't want to talk about it. I said, well, if you want to talk about it offline, you know where to find me. Right. And she did, right? And what I found so interesting, sometimes our employees are dealing with a lot, yeah? Both personal. They may come into an environment, it's new, they feel overwhelmed, they don't know how to cope, but you expect them to just perform. Yes. There's where sometimes you get the problem. Because when the employee feels so overwhelmed and the manager or the supervisor who's unskilled in handling that or dealing with the emotional intelligence of that person, they get fed up and they say, you know what, I'm frustrated, I'm gone.
I'm not sticking around for this.
I'm not sticking around for this. This is too much.
And that can happen in many scenarios, whether you're a new recruit,
correct,
or you've just been introduced to a new task or a new role.
Correct.
And suddenly you retreat to that childhood state, so
what
to
they
speak.
call the flight. Right.
Correct. So you're back there. And so you need to have that supervisor or manager understand the role they now have to play in helping that employee understand the new responsibilities, understand and navigate the challenges that may come towards success for themselves and for the organization.
Correct.
And I think sometimes in leadership position, whether it's supervisor or otherwise, we forget the humanity in human resources. We forget that. We see them as just units of production.
Correct.
And that's all you are. Whether you have a heart or a battery, that's all that matters. Just get it done.
Correct.
But the heart is absolutely critical today, I find, in business.
It is. It is.
And so this is what you do. I started by tease at the top of the show. I said, are all leadership training the same? And what do you say?
Are all the same. Truthfully, you have to tailor it to the needs.
Correct.
Yeah? You
I'm
really have to tailor it. I know you're testing me, person. You have to tailor it to the needs, right? And in order to be able to do that, obviously you do a survey So you test the waters, you test the understanding, you test what they really want to have. Because the employee can tell you, yes, I want to have leadership training. But then when you drill down into the employee, you have to really understand where they're starting from, where their basis is, right? And then you can build on that. So sometimes it can be a one-off session, or sometimes it can be multiple sessions that you would need to have. I recently had to do one for our senior group within my organization. And at the end of it, it's a 3-month program, yeah? And at the end of it, one of the seniors said to me, you know, I'm really grateful for this. We would like to have more of this. Because then she realized I was only here focusing on getting the technical stuff done. I didn't realize that I had to do all of this, being in this senior role. I am now taking charge of the people who work under me, yeah? And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. Leadership is not about being in charge. It's a skill set. Skill sets come with managing different personalities, understanding how to deal with workplace conflict, yeah? Because you will get conflict. Regardless of what you do. You get it in your family to begin with. So why not in the workplace? Some of the programs we also like to put on are mentorship programs.
Right.
Yeah. So even though you are a leader, you may be a leader, you can say do this, do that. But it's not about doing this, doing that. It's about coaching the person. I may be a new staff member. I am now taking on a new task, as you mentioned before, right? I may know the task, but I'm a little nervous. You, as my supervisor, my manager, my leader, coach me in the way that I should go, yeah? Rather than telling me, well, Pearson, go over there and sit and do that.
Yes.
Because,
or Pearson, go over there and work with Ruel.
yes.
And all the while, he's also instilling some very negative habits in me.
Correct.
And so being able to see where I'll use the word deficits for now, the deficits are, you must be, as the leader, competent enough to know from what area of your toolkit you will pull.
Correct.
To be able to address this situation.
This is true.
And that, as you said at the beginning, comes from observation.
Comes from observation.
You don't just sit and say, well, get on with it.
Yep.
You have to sometimes walk the floor. You have to, in my opinion, sometimes just have one-on-one conversations. How are you doing today?
Exactly.
You know, just and a little tap on the shoulder to say, great job you did yesterday, to encourage as you go. And then you hear everything flow therefrom.
Listen, I'd be in the supermarket and I would see somebody who worked with me and say, I want to talk to you. And I'm like, I'm in the supermarket.
Yes.
I'm on my time. But you still have to give that person an ear because obviously, because you're going through your day-to-day, they're not going to see you. So you want to be able to engage that person. So when you know, okay, yes, well, XYZ is happening and this is how they're feeling and whatever, what's not. But, you know, being a leader, it really is about the administrative side because it really takes away from a lot of your technical.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it's showing that you care. And I think the basis of having a good employee or encouraging someone to be a good employee is to show that you care. And don't just superficially care. Yeah?
I like your change in tone just now when you said it, because you're right. I hope you heard in that little whisper just how important it is to care.
To care, of
to
course.
simply care. And you're so very right, because that's all, as human beings, we search for someone who understands us and who cares. And so don't take that for granted in your workplace as well. In a leadership position, you also are required to care. It is not as simple as I have reports to complete.
Correct.
Get it done. Or we have deadlines to meet. Get it done. Why weren't you at work on time? What are you doing now? And even just the way they sound when you ask those questions, put my back up against the wall. I'm ready to fight back.
I am telling you.
So as a leader, the kind of training and development that you do is to not just one-on-one, but to be able to look at the capacity, find where that capacity is, and apply, like a doctor, right before us, the solution to be able to respond effectively, to make a difference with that individual.
I would say I would use solution loosely because not everything fits everybody.
Yes.
Yeah? So I've done the training that I curated throughout the Caribbean. I've done it Aruba, Curacao, and of course here at home. And what I've found in doing it in those other locations, oh dear, I forgot, I even did it in Jamaica. Oh my goodness. In doing it in those locations, every time you walk into the room to start to deliver, once you start, you realize, okay, you got to have that agility to tweak as you go along. Yeah. It's usually, it was a 3-day session. So by day 2, I had to change gears. Yeah. Because the needs of that particular group versus another group that I would have done it with were actually different, because you encourage them to talk. So once you go through the workshop and you're encouraging them to talk, you get a sense of where they really are, what their needs are, what their concerns are. Yeah. Sometimes it's just as simple as, okay, I want to be heard.
Yes.
Sometimes it's something as simple as, I would like the leaders above me to coach me more, as opposed to being so aloof and standoffish. And I had to explain to them, your leaders may appear to be aloof and standoffish, but they're really thinking about, how do I keep the business flowing?
Yes.
But then I also have to say, in the feedback to the leaders, once the sessions are finished, your team really wants to engage with you. Yeah? So then they say, okay, Vicki, tell us how best. So I have a couple other things coming down the chute for the organization, but yes. But it is always good for organizations to make sure you do those leadership programs.
Yeah.
And I would say, don't wait till a person becomes a supervisor or manager. Start the project journey when they come through the door.
Girl, you're going in my directions. Every step you're taking, I'm with you all the way.
Yeah.
But as I'm listening to you as well, the factor of time
Yes.
is going to be important. You need to build in the time
Yes.
to do so. And don't rush the process. Do not rush the process. It will take as long as it takes
Correct.
to be able to be understood, so that we can find a mutual space where we can grow together.
Correct.
So you need to have that time, but you also need to be able to use all of your faculties, I can say it broadly,
Yep.
to hear. And sometimes we think our faculty to hear is just our ears.
No,
Sometimes it's even in the silence that a lot is said.
the body language.
The body language, yeah, I'm coming to all of that too. All of the other ways that people speak and scream,
Correct.
and we don't hear it.
We
We
don't.
don't see it. We don't feel it.
Nope.
We don't any of those kinds of things. And so the training that you do is to help leaders understand the totality of
Correct.
what is required of them. And this is
Correct.
what she does very, very well. So we're looking at the benefits of leadership programs within organizations. And I know you tell yourself, that's obvious. It's not always that obvious to you. And so that's why we have Vicki here to help us understand all of the nuances around developing those programs and why and in what ways best respond to the situations in your particular environment as well where you work. So Vicki, let's continue. I want to talk a little bit now about how do we begin because I think for every development program that we introduce, it has to be supported from the top. As my
Right.
friend Joan would say, it from the
The
C-suite.
tone of the top.
Correct.
Has the
Oh, I like
filter
that.
out. The tone of the top. Yes, we use that all the time. The tone of the top is what sets the pace, right? So the tone at the top has to make a decision. Okay, we want to cultivate a learning culture within the organization, so that when you come through the door, you don't only meet with the HR coordinator and you say, "Hello, Pearson, welcome to whatever organization," but go on and you meet and you sit and you start to work. No. Let's start the culture from there. You put them through a proper orientation so they understand what our safety rules are, what we do as a firm as it relates to the community, our corporate outreach. And then you go on from there. Because once you build that trust with that new employee and you treat them as though you matter, and you continue that journey with them. So let's say 3 months down the road, you do a check-in. You have a buddy with them to work with them. You do a check-in as well and you say, how are you doing, Pearson? Is there something we can help you with? Yeah? And then you move along from there. 3 months then you put them into a training session with like-minded people around their peers, etc. You put them into a training session. And it doesn't have to be anything hard. It can be something as active listening. You talked about that, about how people listen. Because you and I might be having a conversation and I might be staring all over the place.
Yes.
That's not active listening.
You see what I'm doing here? Can you read my body language?
Of course, you are well engaged.
Okay.
You are into what I'm saying. You are really listening. Unlike some people, once you do that, that's a barrier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when you're also talking to the leaders, you also say, well, let's have an open body language, right? Within my organization, we are fortunate. We have an open door policy. So I can knock on the door and I can say, hello, can I have a conversation? Yeah. Many organizations don't have that. And then within, again, speaking for my organization, the tone at the top is what counts. We do by first name basis. So even if my manager, I still can call you Pearson, as opposed to
Mr. Boeing.
Mr. Boeing. Yeah,
So
because
formal.
it sounds so formal. Because then it creates that openness
Yes.
for me to come and share something with you, depending on how I'm feeling. Yeah. So, leadership, trust. You have to build on trust. Because at the end of the day, if I come and I share, I'm feeling this way, I wouldn't expect you to run off and say, well, you know, I just had a conversation with Vicki and XYZ, XYZ. That's not what you want. Yeah?
Yeah.
Mutual respect and understanding as well.
Leadership sets the culture, the tone at the top.
Yes.
And so, leaders, that's so important. I'm going to give an example. This is my third employer.
Okay.
My first employer, where I was in banking at the first, and you know, in banking, it's all about customer service anyhow.
It is.
We had embarked then on an initiative to adjust customer service. What I found very interesting at the time was that everyone within the organization, from the director to the guard, had to go through the process because we're changing the culture.
Yes.
It also, in that process, empowered the guard to say to the director, hang on, you just broke the agreement because of your action. It empowered him or her to be able to do so.
Yep.
How relevant do you think that is to changing through leadership development, or to change the concept of leadership in organizations?
Yes, it is very relevant. Because you just said it, to be honest. The guard felt empowered to say, well, hey, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. This is what we agreed to. And that is what you really need in an organization, accountability as well. So I can say to you, I'm your manager. We're going to get to work and we're going to do this.
Right.
But I stroll in at 10. Where's my accountability? Yeah? I can't expect you to do all the work if I'm not there to help you or to coach you or to guide you. Where's my accountability? So the persons above me must be able to say, hey, this is not what we agreed to. You understand? It all comes back to that workplace culture, that openness, and being able to say, thank you.
Yes. Yes.
I appreciate you. And there's so many small gestures that you can use as well. Talking about your scenario at the bank, when I first joined an organization, good few years ago, Pearson, I wouldn't say how many years, but a good few years ago, I remembered within my first 6 months, I was like, this is not for me. I don't want to be here. I don't like this culture. And I remember going home to my mom, good mentor, I must say. And I said to her, I gave her all of my grievances. I was so upset. And she said, you know, V, when you leave organization A, you go into organization B, it's not going to change. It's going to be the same. Maybe it is something within yourself that you need to look at as well. Yeah.
Wow.
And I remember saying to myself, what does she mean? Well, I am just fine.
Yes.
But then I come to realize after then having conversations with other individuals in the organization, so this is now where the mentorship comes in, right? You must realize that there are some parts of yourself that you need to change as well.
Vicki.
Yes, Pearson.
I like the fact that you're following as well. You're going with me, we're going together.
Yes, Pearson.
Because in leadership, the value of the 360
Feedback.
review.
Yes.
Right. Because oftentimes leaders shy away from that.
Yes.
They don't want you to tell them what they
you
are
s-
seeing.
Correct.
So let's talk a little bit about that as part of the leadership development in organizations, because that's the thing I think a lot of leaders fail, and supervisors as well, all the way through the organization fail in. I'll review you, you don't get to review me.
Correct.
Let's talk about that.
Okay. We recently started a program called that same 360 feedback, where you do the upward feedback as opposed to the downward.
Right.
And I think some people were hesitant because it's easy for me to point out your flaws. It's difficult for me to see mine. I don't want to see my flaws. I don't want to think I have flaws. But not only that, as leaders, right, sometimes our leaders, they put up walls, you know, because they are afraid to let you know that they don't know.
Yes.
So they put up these walls as well. I had one young lady, she sent me a feedback request. And I was like, well, I can't believe she's asking me for a feedback request. And I was like, okay, let me rack my brain. The thing about the feedback request is not to say, well, to attack the person's personality.
Right.
It is really to give constructive, what we call constructive criticism. Yeah? And be honest, feedback. If it was that this person was giving you that kind of feedback, how would you want to receive it? Right? So I did give her the feedback, and she said, thank you. Because these are some things that people have never said to me. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. But I was trying to be, you still have to be nice.
Yes, yes.
Because you don't want to have hurt feelings, right? If it is that even before you get to the 360 feedback, you recognize that your supervisor, your manager, is doing some things that are not of their norm. Because sometimes what is happening in your personal life can come into your professional life, yeah? Regardless of how you try. You should feel comfortable enough as a junior staff member to say, well, hey, I realize XYZ. Are you okay? And then that person, if they're going to be honest with themselves, have to say, well, yeah, I need to check myself. Because I came in, I was a little snappy, and I'm not usually snappy. Okay, maybe whatever it is that's affecting me has now spilled over into my professional life. So you want to have that kind of open, honest communication, the two-way communication, and the accountability. But the environment has to be cultivating that kind of culture for you to be able to have that.
It has to be a safe environment.
Has to be.
Where I can feel comfortable, that I can tell you, Vicki, not in that kind of tone.
Of course, of course.
You know, what I think, what I observe.
Correct.
And you don't feel as though, you see, the minute he walks out of here, I am going to write HR on him.
Correct.
It's going on his file.
Correct.
And to know that we will still be good colleagues. I mean, I was going to say friends, because we can eventually have that kind of friendship, but that we can still be two colleagues who get along and for the good of the company.
Yeah. I like that term you used when you talked about safe space. Whenever I start any of the sessions, I have ground rules. My ground rules, you must participate. I am not talking to you, it's a discussion. And this is a safe space. And I usually go like this. This is a safe space.
Yes.
What you say here stays here. It is up to you to take it outside of here. But everything you share with me or my colleague as facilitator, it stays right here. And once you do that and you put persons at ease, I tell you, the information that comes out, it just flows.
Yes. Yes.
Because it's not what they're expecting. When I first did the workshop, the first workshop we curated in Jamaica, when the participants came in,
When he or she know, let me hear she.
their backs up, you know.
Yes.
Let me hear what is happening here. By day one, everybody was like, all right, let me relax a little bit.
Yes.
By day three, at the end of the session, one guy said, the manager came and he said, you know, I thank you very much for this. Because I thought this was going to be another talk shop.
Waste of time.
A waste of my time. He said, but you helped me to see so many things about myself that I did not realize. And it was not by saying, Pearson, I don't like your tie. Correct. Pearson, I don't like that color. It don't suit you. It was just how you apply stuff. Yeah? And that's what makes it count.
Yes. Truly, truly counts. And so to the supervisor for just a moment, because oftentimes you're called on, and I'll give you my example as well, called on to have to convene meetings, because you want to share, not just share, but to come up with ideas, brainstorm for just a moment. I'll tell you one of the things I do. One of my ground rules in any meeting I have is the word no does not exist.
Does not exist.
Does not exist. Let me hear how. Because if I can think it, it is possible.
Correct.
How can we achieve it? It might not necessarily happen now, but how can we achieve this? And go ahead, your finger came
I'm
up.
going to say, I'm glad you said that, because one of the things we also look at is change management and agility. As a manager, you're accustomed doing A, B, C, D, and doing it on the road. You may have, I don't know what they call them, the Gen Z, the newer ones who are coming into
Those
the
young
firm.
people, yes.
Those, as you said, those young people. And they obviously going to come with fresh ideas. So you come to the meeting, as you said, you come to the meeting, and you're saying, this is how we are accustomed to doing this. But the Gen Z is saying, but there's an easier way. But you don't push them one side. You listen.
Yes.
Yeah. This is where your learning curve is now going to come, based on your agility as well. Be open to ideas as a leader. That is the kind of things we also go through when we do these programs.
Indeed. Be open as a leader.
Yeah, be open.
To everyone.
To everyone.
You know, there's the desiderata. If you really look at the words to that, even this is all part of it.
It is.
Embed the values that are shared in that, and you will find that life becomes so much easier.
Correct.
And even within your organization as a leader, at any level, if you apply these principles that we've been discussing this morning, life becomes so much easier.
So much easier.
So much easier. And so, as I would say too, I will not memo you unless you did something wrong. We could get along famously, but when you do, you forced me to take a particular action. And I think once we all understand that from the very, very beginning, and we have that kind of relationship, because we understood what leadership is all about, then we can see a far more harmonious encounter. My thing also is, for me, is even though I would have issued the memo, you're still my friend. You're still someone who I enjoy working with. It was just the thing that just I had to deal with.
Yes.
Not you.
Correct.
And while you may be the person who did the thing, don't see this as an indictment on you. I see this also as an opportunity for you to turn the curve and be better. The finger came up again.
Sometimes it is how it is, not what is done, it's how it's done.
It is done.
Yeah. I've had an employee say to me, we were in a group meeting and my manager bawled me out for something, and I'm like, no. How did it make you feel? And she explained, etc. And I said, well, have a conversation with her. Have a conversation with that manager, and let them know how you felt, because you really would like that it doesn't happen again. So it's things like these. If there is something you want to say to an employee, there's no need for you to embarrass them. There's no need for you to call them out. Pull them one side, Pearson. You did something there that I didn't like.
That's right.
Now, if it is something that continues, then obviously you have to take it to the next level. Yeah.
Vicki Williams.
Yes,
oh
please.
My word. I just speak to us all the time. I wasn't aware so much time had already gone by. This was so good talking to you indeed. She is a learning and development specialist. She focuses on the benefits of leadership programs within organization with us this morning. And there's so much more to this leadership styles, these leadership styles that you need to learn a whole lot more about. But check HRMAB. HRMAB.org.bb. And I keep saying to you, membership brings benefits. So just become a member of HRMAB and you draw on all of these resources. They can really help and guide your organization to be as successful as it has to be by also approaching the people within the process as well. Thank you, Vicki.
Thank you for having me.
You are more than welcome. The question still is,
oh dear,
what two things you can never eat for breakfast?
Pearson, if Dr. Barker was unable to answer this, why do you think I will be able to?
Women always have a perspective that we never thought, So,
I can try it.
Let me hear you.
Lunch.
Go ahead.
Dinner.
What nonsense are you talking about?
You can't eat that for breakfast.
Well done, Vicki. Well done. She got it right. She got it right. I thought I had her stumped. Well done indeed.
That's why they call me the learning and development specialist.
Of course they do. There you go.
Morning, morning, morning.